This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Committee. Before we get started, just want to introduce the committee members and say how they are on this committee. I'm Scott Kavanaugh. I'm the mayor's appointee and I'm the chair of the committee. And we'll do the people in the room and then the people online can introduce themselves.
Tom Peake, City Council Representative.
Kira Henninger, Parks and Rec rep.
Ken Iavecchia, Planning Board rep.
Mary Church, Housing Authority.
And for our members online,
Dan Rist, City Council appointee.
John Brunner, Historic Commission.
excellent. And we have one more member who's here. That's okay. Do you want to say your name? Do you want to say your name and who and how you're on this committee?
Greg Rowlands, City Council appointee.
Excellent. So look at this. We got a lot of people there. All right. The first thing we have is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. It was all in your emails. I did make I requested one quick change just right now from Ava. Did you rewrite? You want to just read what it says now just so we...
Yeah, totally. I won't project that. Just to introduce myself to the public, I'm Ava Gerstel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, good. I'm Ava Gerstel. I'm the CPA coordinator. So I'm the city staff for this committee.
Without whom nothing would happen. So we're really glad.
Okay. All right. So the change that Chair Kavanaugh asked for was in the Kavanaugh expressed his approval of the clock supporting framework as other funding improvements to the church-owned property should be considered as a separate item.
Yeah, so that's the rewritten. It was a little different before, but I wanted to kind of clear up what I was saying there. So, any other requests of changes for the minutes or anything else about the minutes? Is there a motion about the minutes?
A motion to approve the September minutes.
Excellent.
Second.
Perfect. All right, and because we have members online, we need to do a roll call vote. Do you have what's that list? All right. First, Scott Kavanaugh, aye. Dan Rist.
Aye.
John Brunner.
Aye.
Kira Henninger.
Aye.
Mary Church.
Abstain.
Tom Peake.
Aye.
Greg Rowland.
Abstain.
Ken Iavecchia.
Yeah, aye.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, the minutes are approved. Next thing on the agenda is public speak. And what this is for anybody who is here for anything that is not on the agenda. So I'm guessing that many people here are here for something that is on the agenda later on. But is there anybody here for something here other than, say, a dog park? Yes.
I would add something, even though I'm here for the dog park.
Yeah.
Would love to get it in writing that, yep, we would still, I know there's a plan in place, but where are the trash cans that we can access in downtown areas? It's, to me, reprehensible that we don't have them and it's taking this long to get ones that are, I know there was a problem with people putting their trash in it or something, and there's a solution with getting ones that you can't do that, but it seems like it's taking longer than it should. And if you want people to come into the boardwalk and go up and down Cottage and Union, they should have places to put the trash.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I'm sorry. Did you have your hand up?
Well, I was just gonna say,
Yes.
they just installed at least 2 trash cans yesterday, day before yesterday. There's one by the pond and there's one, I just saw somebody posted photos of them. So there's at least 2 down there.
It's been a long time.
Look at that.
I don't know how, but I saw a photo of it, so I know that they're in process. And the DPW is gonna be emptying it according to the post, so.
Thank you. Everything will go like that. All right. City officials, do we have any communication that you want to say? Nothing under city official correspondence, administrative or otherwise? Great. Account balances and open project updates. So what this is basically, the Community Preservation Act is funded by a surcharge on the property tax. And this is where we're at, given what we have brought in and what we expect.
I'm so sorry. Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
For communications. I did see that for the Montauk Spray Park, the matching funds from the state, were approved.
Excellent.
So
Yes.
that's great. That's
Yay.
a project that we funded and we were waiting on, but it was sort of contingent on those funds coming through. So, I saw that they were.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, and they sure is. All right. Well, then,
Jump the gun.
It's all right.
All good. Yes, congratulations
That's
to,
all right.
to the
Very
Parks and
exciting.
Rec Commission and John Mason.
Yeah. It's my fault. I should have given you, I have a whole, does anybody else need an agenda, by the way? Yeah, I don't know how I ended up. Sorry, there you go. Thank you. All right, now, Tom.
Okay, so this is our typical account balance worksheet. Where we are at right now is line 19, the orange line. So this committee has $619,189 remaining before any pending applications. And so we're in the first meeting of the second quarter of FY26 funding, and we just have one application in front of us for the dog park design. So the yellow line shows the balances if that project was funded. And we haven't received any information from preliminary requests for the rest of the fiscal year. So those will come up here as they are received.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions on that? Ready?
I'll just note too, just for this committee's information and for the public's information, that our three appropriations that this committee voted on last meeting are going to City Council for the first reading at next meeting. And I'll just express that that's the timeline we're currently working with in the city. It does take about a month for all the signatures to come through and the account to be opened before it goes to City Council. So, great.
Got it. Open project updates.
Yeah, just a couple updates for the committee. Tom jumped the gun on one of them, which is that Spray Parks received the Land Water Conservation Fund grant. That's wonderful. One of two communities in Western Mass that received that grant, which is wonderful. And then another exciting moment for the priorities and the projects funded by this committee is that the Valley CDC has found a mortgage to subsidize with the grant that we funded last year. So $150,000 mortgage subsidy was provided to a resident, and we're very excited for them and their family.
Great.
Yeah. And then the third update I have is that the pickleball courts are built and complete. And John is excited to note that it came in slightly under budget, that he plans to use the remaining funds to build a shade structure, which he believes is within the parameters of the project.
Okay.
And that if there's the remaining funds at the end of that, he will return them to the committee.
Great. Do you have anything else you want to sign up?
No, it's very exciting. I think they had a handful of people at the ribbon cutting last week. It was 11 a.m. on a weekday, so not many people attended, but I've seen them in use, and so they look nice.
Their CPA sign. Did you notice?
I didn't notice, but there's also like there were cars parked in front of it when I went by, but I will check next time I'm at the fields.
Because I believe that was probably, I bet there was, because there still is one, I think, from the other.
Yeah.
We just like people to know when we're spending public money,
Ah,
right? Like,
absolutely.
this is what your city
That's good to
is
know.
paying. All right, any other questions on that? Given all that, we will now turn to new business. And the only item of new business we have tonight is the dog park design. It's new business again, but it's not even really new in that I believe I've been on this committee for a while. I think we first heard about the dog park in like 2018 or 2019, long time ago.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear more. And I'll hand that over to you folks to tell us more about it.
I'm Joan Kurtz. I'm the president of the Friends of Easthampton Dog Park. And I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation. I know there are a lot of other supporters here as well, but I just wanted to show you some who could not make it tonight. These are the ones that are going to benefit the most from our dog. And the one here on the bottom, Zeba, is out. Oh, so. That's the start. Next slide, please. So we're asking the CPA to finished paying what we started paying Bill Cannon, who was our design engineer. His fee is $26,000. We've given him 25. We're asking 23.5 from the CPA. He has already designed the schematic, which I will show later on, and he will be putting in the bids and all the documents for the construction when we're ready for that. Next. So, we're Friends of Easthampton Dog Park is a registered 501c3 with Massachusetts and with the IRS. We have over 450 members and supporters on our email list. And in the packet that the CPA Commission got are 4 letters from some of our staunchest supporters. One of them is our president of the City Council, J.P. Kaczynski, Kira Henninger from the Parks and Rec, thank you. Connie Denham, who's a city councilor, and a former city councilor, Owen Zaret. They wrote some beautiful letters, and they're in that packet that you have. Next, please. Oh, there it is. Okay. The mission of the dog park is, and I want to stress the word off leash. It's a fenced-in dog park where dogs and their owners and friends have a safe and well-maintained area for recreation and socialization. I pointed out a picture of our dog Zeba. She always has to be on a leash or she will run after every squirrel and chipmunk. So therefore, the dog park is crucial for her needs and for a lot of other dogs who do the same thing. As I mentioned, board neighborhood and community support with the 450 members. Maintenance was a question. Primarily, it will be through the volunteers that we have from the dog park, and Park and Rec will assist us when we need some heavy-duty work that we can't do ourselves. We're applying for grants if any that show up, but primarily all monies will be raised via fundraising. Again, off leash. I'm going to keep stressing off because it's the benefit of the dog park. Those of us who have to have them off leash. Dog socialization. We take our dog very often to the South Hadley Dog Park. She plays with all the other dogs. I know the names of all the other dogs, but never their owners. And she loves it, but she's off leash. You put her on a leash and you walk her somewhere else and she might bark because it's called leash aggression. She's not comfortable. Off leash she is. And it helps her when she comes home. She's a very calm, quiet dog. Pedestrian safety. There are a lot of people here in town that don't have a sidewalk to walk their dogs. The dog park is ideal. Again, exercise and socialization, mobility challenge people and dogs. ADA compliant, we're working with that because that's something the CPA stresses that you need to have compliance. Expanding the amount of access to recreational facilities. Concrete will be able to be there for them to, if you have a wheelchair or walkers, so it makes it easier to get into the park. And there will be an actual ADA compliant parking space right in the front of the entrance. The actual dog park. This is what it is. Thank you, Bill Cannon. So the spray park is about up here. Down here is Pavilion 3. And this is the restrooms that's opposite the bathroom. Having water there gives us a chance to have water stations inside for the dog park. This is 1.5 acres. We have trees that are going to stay around the outside of it as a buffer so that the kids don't see in and the dogs don't see out. We'll have a large dog park and a small dog park. The entryway is here, like I said, ADA compliant is going to be there. There's multiple entries for any heavy equipment that the Parks and Rec needs to do. We will be including in here 6 benches, 2 water stations, and 3 waste stations. We sent out a request for sponsors. 2 benches have been sponsored. The 2 water stations with the most expensive have been sponsored. And all waste stations where you get your poop sponsored. We can open the park with just 2 benches without a problem as we continue to raise funds and see if anybody else wants to sponsor a bench. As I said, this is, for those who don't know, this is the roadway that takes you all the way down to the pickleball courts, the baseball courts, and everything else. So it's in an ideal location and not so hard for people walk their dogs anyway. You might as well let them now walk them, let them have an office park to play in. The original cost was at $360,000. We divided down to $330 because of the coverage that we have for the sponsorship. And included in the original draft is some niceties that we do not need to have for the park to open, but at some point might want to add. It would like to be a gazebo as an entranceway. It's very expensive and not necessary. So we can raise funds for that. So we're able to get the cost down to $330,000. Fundraising schedule and also construction. So here we are at winter 2025, spring 26, preparation of the document phase. This is what we're asking funds for to Bill Cannon to start doing the bid documents and to help pay for the beautiful draft schematic you gave us. Summer, winter 26, we're going to continue doing a lot of fundraising and might have to come back for further assistance from the CPA at that point. Into 26, 27, we hopefully done with the fundraising needed for the 330. Bid process will begin in 2027. It should be done. 2 years. I've told this is pretty good, so we'll take the 2 years. This was the best part that happened in the past month. We received a donation of $200,000 out of the blue from a dog lover and a very generous benefactor, which boosted our numbers from what was originally 29,000 to 229,000. So we put that money into long-term CDs, where as of September at 175,000, we're earning 5,500 interest. And a 7-month CD, we get $455. So as of right now, on September 24th, we have fewer than $29,000. I just made a deposit of approximately $1,900 from other donors that we have just received. So we are, the donation was a game changer. We can actually have it. So that was my part of the presentation. Are there any questions before everybody else?
Questions from the committee?
I just want to add, I moved into Easthampton in 2004, and I swear like in 2007 or 2008, when the city puts out its priorities in terms of what it wants to do, dog park was on there way back then. And I'm very happy to see it's at the point that it's at now.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to make sure the committee is able to ask any questions they want of the folks up here. And then there'll be a lot of time for public to speak. So we'll make sure it's okay. Thank you. I have a question. You said the entrance, you're saying something about like, can we bring back the schematic actually? Can you just point out where you expect people to enter? Like, is there?
Yep.
I just want to understand this a little bit more.
So, the entryway is going to be right here. So
Okay.
this is the road. The road is here that comes in. So the pool is on that side.
Yeah.
This is the bathroom that people use from the pool. And you'll be parking both here and here. And you're walking in the entryway is right here.
Will that be new parking? That's not existing parking.
That's not there. There will be new parking. There is presently a picnic table there. I think that gets very little use. And John Mason from Park and Rec said that they would be removing that table, and then we'll put the parking up there.
And the parking down here that I often is like for Little League, that's not expected to be part of the access.
No, but you can use it. You just there is a trail here for walking. So if you do park there on days where there might be a parking space because there's no games going on, then you just have to walk around.
Okay. Thank you. Can I ask about the you said something about like the disposal bags?
Yes.
Is that going to be stocked by parks or how is that?
No, we actually have one of the we have 3 waste stations. 2 of them are sponsored by the company, Ryan Digital, and they would like to provide the bags for that. So that will be taken care of as well.
And and I asked this, I'm a teacher. I'm currently doing a project with my students on plastics.
Mm-hmm.
So like, do you know what the bags, plastic bags, are they biodegradable or?
I don't know because he wanted more information. I said, first, let's get the dog park accepted and
Yep.
the money in, and then we can work it out. There are different types of poop bags that are biodegradable. There is also in Eastern Massachusetts at a dog park, I don't know what it's called, but it takes the bags and the dog poops and converts it into methane, and they power a light with that. That's a couple $1,000s. I mentioned that at way back when. That would be an ideal thing. Right then and there, you could power a light and not have to worry about the waste.
Great. So I don't think this impacts this decision tonight. But I think when we're looking at like the funding, as you mentioned, that you'll come back for funding for construction. I think just considering the environmental impact of the dog park in the park, like I think that would be something, like for me, that would be something to consider. So I'd love to just, when you're saying there's different options for bags and everything, when you're at that point, that just, I wanted to put that out there, that's something that I'd want to look into as far as, knowing the environmental impact. Greg.
How did we determine that this falls in the open space category of funds? Is this eligible? I mean, I know it's eligible for us to fund, but I'm just wondering if we looked into that piece of it, whether this fits the requirements for an open space project.
It would be a recreation project, and it would be under the category, the verb would be create. So it'd be like creating a new recreational facility.
And we can use the designated open space funds for that type of recreation project.
Yeah, it's one pot of money. And it's on designated parkland as well, which is a key part of that recreation
Great.
piece.
Thank you.
Dan has a question.
Dan.
I hate to bring this up, but what is the city's liability if somebody's dog bites somebody else's trainer in the park? I'm wondering if we have liability insurance. The park's liability insurance probably covers that, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a John Mason question.
That's been something
As far as when I spoke to John, there will be a sign posted on the outside as you walk in that you are responsible and that there's no liability for us. This is your responsibility when you walk in, knowing that you're walking into this type of environment. All dog parks have a sign like that. Every single dog park on the outside. So.
Scott, could you repeat that? Because I couldn't understand her. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just what was being said was that there'll be a sign on the entrance to the park that will essentially say that you're responsible for your dog, and you're taking responsibility in going into the park, and that all dog parks have a sign like that in other parks.
That may be true, but it does not eliminate liability that a lawyer will go after the city. So I'm sure the city's all set for that though. And other dog parks have the same protection, so it'll be fine. I
can just, I don't know specifics, but I know that John Mason was a signer on this application and that he is very thorough in all things that he does. So I feel like if he was worried about that it has been resolved, or he knows what the steps are to address that.
Okay, I'll just email him. Thank you.
Yeah.
Greg.
I'll follow up with a similar question. Knowing that right across the road here is the spray park and the softball fields, probably the parking lot will be mutually used between softball games and dog park, or maybe the park on the other side. Is there an age limitation or any sort of, when it comes to toddlers or small children in the dog park with off-leash animals, and what is that?
We are working with John now on a memorandum of understanding where at that point, the mentioning of a sign and liability is all inside of that document. And once I received a draft copy from John that we're working on, we're going to go back to him. We have a couple of questions about it. And I believe it says there cannot be any children under, I'm not going to say the year because I forgot, but children have to be accompanied by an adult. And you can't have more than 2 or 3 dogs at a time. You have to be with the dogs. Specific things that aren't necessarily on the sign as much as what we have to agree with on our board. to work with Park and Rec, to make sure it is safe, all around.
In the, as you mentioned, your presentation, this is for design, and then they'll be coming back for further assistance for construction. How do you have a sense of how much that will be? I know we had some numbers up there, but do you have any sense of?
At this point, no. I know that the figures for the $330,000 construction includes a 20% contingency fee, knowing that everything is going to go up.
Okay.
So at this point, no. Even Bill Cannon doesn't have any idea. He's got to sit down. He has to work with, I assume, the city, with who they're going to hire, the companies they hire, the people they hire, all of that. So.
But the 330 is the estimate of the whole project.
Yes.
So that's construction and everything.
That's everything.
And you currently have 200, almost 230 in the bank.
Yes.
So I think it would be somewhat safe to say that in coming back somewhere less than what, 100, I mean, less than 100,000?
900.
No, but I mean, just to put it, I just want to publicly, like, we're not, where we're trying to get to, like, we don't want to spend money on a design that then, it actually is going to cost $10 million to build, and there's no way the city is going to build that. So it's good to have like an idea of, you know what I mean? Like that's.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. But again, originally the cost was 360. We have it down to 330. If another benefactor comes around, then we may not have to come back to the CPA. But otherwise, we continue doing our fundraising, looking at grants. I don't have any more information. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this committee has, or this group, this nonprofit has 230,000 in the bank. Why not, like, what was the thought process around not funding the design out of that 230,000 and then asking once the estimate comes in?
John Mason suggested this. And since it's in the park, and Nonotuck Park, I listen to John.
I mean, I think it's a legitimate question. I also think there's something that is good about coming here at this point to be able to have a public hearing, to be able to have it on record that there's supporters in this room, so that when you get to construction costs, there's fewer questions of, has this had any support in the past? So I think, and I mean, we've certainly done projects where we funded it in two phases, where it's design and then construction. So I think that's a really good point. And I think I do see reasons to do it this way, even just from a transparency way. Anything else, committee? All right. I'm guessing there might be some folks here that want to speak to this. Do you want names, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, please say your name for the record.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us. I'm Moya Rose. You have me on the list. And thank you to Joan for her exceptional leadership on this project. A lot of us are passionate about it in the community. My personal example, the last time I was here was to advocate for pickleball courts. So I'm a happy customer. At that time, we were only getting 2, and now there's more. So it's really exciting. So
there's almost as many people in the room.
Yeah. High user of the park. I live on East Street, so we don't have sidewalks, and we used to be able to take our dog through Mutter Field to get through to the areas that were sidewalks. We're no longer permitted to do that, which I understand for conservation reasons. They don't allow dogs through there anymore. We love walking our dog in Nonotuck Park regularly, and I will say in the winter, there are many of us who choose the off-leash option, which is not allowed because the gates are closed, but there is a person that rides around sometimes in a white truck that will yell at you if your dog's off-leash. I understand, we are breaking the rules. So it'd be great to have a legal place to have your dogs off-leash, because many of us do that in the winter anyway. So I think that's pretty much what I want to say is big advocate and hope it goes through.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes,
My
sir.
name is Brent Hill, and I live here in town. Of Dragon Circle, that doesn't matter. I just want to say that in my experience of having dogs for going on 50 years now, Dog parks are really, really wonderful for a local economy. There's a huge knock-on effect. Because dog people, especially if there were a dog-related business in this town, we spend money. You know, these are our children. We do not hesitate to drop $20, $30, whatever, on our babies. Even in hard economic times. So I see this park as could definitely having a decent knock-on effect for the city. Because it does become a destination. It's not just for Easthampton people. A new park, I mean, those of us who are in the dog world, we hear about these new parks and we decide, let's go check it out. Let's try to this place this weekend. Check out this new park that has arrived. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the city to just draw in more people and to just boost the economy.
Thank you. Hold on one second, actually. You good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Elise Lennon, and as soon as I found out about the dog park, I've been a supporter and, you know, I've made donations. I'll continue to donate because this is so important. And I have a rescue, Bella, and she needs to run. So, I mean, she really needs to run, and the only way to do it is to get a dog park. So I've gone to Amherst, which takes like 35 minutes, and it's been but that was really good because I saw what it could be like, a dog park is like, and it's really so beneficial. The dogs are so happy. They're getting their exercise, what they need, so they're happy dogs. You know, it's great, and there's the sociability between dog owners, and it's just such a plus. And one thing I was going to say, I saw you didn't point out that was it Trulia? So that increases value.
It's number 8 on the list of people to come into a city.
Right, and I just was looking it up today. Like the millennials are the highest percentage of dog owners, and I assume those are going to be the people buying the houses. You know, in these times, the next 10, 20 years, and so they're going to be looking for something like this. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. So I really hope we can make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say now.
Yes, right.
Hi, JP. I know that like in 2000 or 2008, somewhere in there was a whole quest about, you know, city priorities and what should the city be doing in the next 10 years. And way down in the bottom was the dog park, but it was there. I mean, there were enough people in that time that said, you know, dog park. And I kept thinking to myself, oh, good, dog park. And it never materialized. And I was saying, why isn't it materialized? And then Joan Kurtz came along. And then the dog park committee came along. And I was so excited because finally we're doing something that people wanted that long ago. And I just want to say, I think it's been well researched. I think it works within the culture of the city. And even though I have a small dog that's 13 years old, he may not still be here in 2027. I'm happy that it's happening for those people who have dogs.
Thank you.
Hi, Angelica West, and I also have a dog. Her name is Nani.
I see. Always.
So, and yeah, for me, actually, the most important thing is I am not able to walk her because I am not steady enough on my feet to do so. And she would like literally pull me off my feet if I went out because even though she's not that big, she is kind of strong. And I also have been going to Amherst, so sadly a Holyoke. And it would be just a lot easier for me. I live right here on Northampton Street. That, you know, I had a dog park where I could take her just in my car and have her go get her exercise without waiting for my partner to come home and take her out. And so I could do it for myself and just take her out during the daytime and what she needs. And I also, when we talked about the economy thing, is that I can attest to that when I take her to Holyoke, Amherst, or South Hadley, when we go together, we often go out to dinner there or go some other places and stuff instead of, staying locally. And so. You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Faye Champeux, and I just really also want to commend Joan Kurtz on her leadership and her persistence in this situation. And I've been around since the beginning. My dog's Tiggy. She's a French bulldog, and last year told me I had, proper boots and the crampons and everything, and she saw a squirrel, and down I went and broke my wrist. But anyway, that's not what I was going to talk about. Just a little. And she's a character. All dogs are characters, but trust me. Anyway, I live at Treehouse Community off of Park Street, and a lot of us folks that live there are living on Social Security, and people are struggling and are disabled, and people are really struggling to be able to get their dogs out or be able to get them exercised. And I've offered to do a pool where I'll bring people to the park. Those are the kinds of things I can do. I also have 2 really major disabilities, which you can't really see on the outside, but they're there. And the idea of, driving I go to South Hadley. I just came back from there. I mean, when you're on Social Security, just the gas alone, because if I don't take her out, she tortures me. Absolutely. She's like solid muscle and pushes on me to play with, of course it's part of my lack of training her, but it's elder abuse essentially. Sitting there at home, okay, now we're going to play ball. Ball, so, especially for those of us that don't have a lot of money and those of us who are elders, I think this is really, really critical. And I've heard so many other people talking about it from their perspective that I hadn't even thought about. But I too, when I go to South Hadley, we meet up and go for something to eat, or, I've got friends from there that contact me to let me know they're going to be there at a certain time because our dogs get along really well. And so I'm just really hoping that we consider those of us that are a little less fortunate than some. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I have to show a picture of my dog because he's been on stage twice. He's been on stage twice as Toto. Here at the Easthampton High School. So he has stage creds. All right. And he'll be willing to give out paws, on his photos for people who want to have his autograph. So,
It's the cutest CPA meeting we've had in years. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Scott. I'm JP Kwasinski, City Councilor. I wanted to just say how thrilled I am to be able to bring this or see that this is brought to you as a way for the community to invest in itself, in its members, in its dogs, and the people who have the dogs. Because when the dogs go to the park, they take their owners. And they get to talk to one another.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your social class is, what your income is. It doesn't matter anything. It's your dog. And this is a great opportunity in our city. In addition, folks who can spend money will go ahead and do it. So I'm just absolutely looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Here we go.
I'm Sandy Kurtz. After 53 years, I do not dare cook with my wife. We are acutely aware that Zebra she's a Czechoslovakian Shepherd. She's 8 years old. And we're acutely aware that she may not see the benefits of this dog park. But we feel it's really important for the dog community at large, whether we have that opportunity to see Zebra run in that dog park or not. It's just important. We've been to dog parks in New York and other areas, and they're just happy places. Just happy places. And yes, it's nice that Zebra comes home exhausted. but happy. You know, she knows when I put on my jacket, we're going. That's the doggy dance. So it's important. It may not benefit Joni and I, but it'll benefit us because it's a city. We're in the city. We live in the city. And I'm chair of 359 Main Street with 60 condominiums. And we have people from Paul Street walking their dogs, even though technically they're not supposed to. It's private property. And I think those people as well who walk because it's safe. We're essentially a cul-de-sac, 359. And it's safe for them to walk their dogs. And the dog park will provide that safety in an unleashed atmosphere. So thank you for letting me speak. Did I do okay?
Anyone else? Oh, yeah.
Two very quick points I forgot to make. One was, even though we can park on the outside, we do maintain a parking pass for Nonotuck, which I think is like $25 because we believe in supporting the park. And I imagine a lot more people would be buying those passes to go park near the park, especially people that can't walk the distance in there. And the second one is a lot of people do let their dogs free on Williston Skullbreath fields, which they don't like, and they're not supposed to do it. That's so close. I imagine people would be happy to then take them to the park instead.
Thank you.
Blaine Wood, I've been involved with the dog park before it was a committee. Since 2019. Jim Ramsey was trying to get a dog park and it got shot down. We were at this meeting with 300 people and it was NIMBY, not in my backyard. Every single property was shot down for one reason or the other. And I was one of the 2 people out of the 200 people that did not want it in Nonotuck Park. So, because I didn't want people to have to pay to go to the park. I wanted everybody to be able to afford to go. So they've changed my mind because now I'm all for it because you can actually go during the week without paying, but people, they need someplace to bring them. I've had 4 dogs and I don't have one now because I had 3 seniors in the house. One was 104. She just passed away. We couldn't have a dog for safety reasons. But there's so many people in my neighborhood that I've been talking to that walk by with their dogs saying, we can't wait for the dog park. So I really believe, and I agree, it's going to be an uptick in passes to Nonotuck Park because people are going to want to come here. So it's going to be an uptick in income for them, for the park. But I really think we need someplace, as somebody with a disability who couldn't walk my dog, I'd like to be able to go somewhere, if I ever get a dog again, so I'm working on it. I'd like to be able to have someplace for the dog to be let loose and run with friends. So, and it's socialization.
Thank you. All right.
We received one written comment.
Oh,
So
yeah.
to project that. Great. I'll just read that into the record. My name is Lisa Downing, and I'm a 25-year resident of Easthampton. I've been volunteering with the Friends of Easthampton Dog Park for the past several years and currently serve as secretary. I'm sorry that I cannot be at your 10/16 meeting where our request for funding towards our design engineer costs will be considered. The dog park is a much needed and desired recreational amenity that is missing in our community. I'm strongly in favor of CPA funds being used toward the cost of the dog park as it will benefit many community members in their recreational pursuits and be of special benefit to those living in apartments, condos, or other dwellings in our city without fenced yards. It's also of special benefit to those with physical disabilities or limited mobility who cannot give their dogs enough exercise by walking them. Really, dog parks are a great benefit to many people in our city, including those without dogs who are bothered by unleashed dogs being walked in Nonotuck Park. The new park will be sanctioned and a safe place for dogs to run off leash. I hope you will vote favorably on our application. Thank you very much.
Any last questions from the committee? All right, is there a motion? We don't do that yet. We're waiting. Sorry.
Presentation. Can I just say one thing? Yeah, just, I think it's really exciting that we're finding ourselves in this place because the meeting that Lady was mentioning, I was at that meeting. That was
that was my first term on city council, and I got put on the property committee, and they said, here's 6 or whatever parcels of land within city-owned land that we could potentially put something like this on, and every single one of them had a bunch of neighbors who showed up and said, "Oh, well, over my dead body, we don't want this at all."
Basically, yeah.
And at the time, sort of the position from the parks was absolutely not. And so there was a sense that I was just looking at it. I was like, I don't know where you go from here, but you guys persevered, and you know, eventually it seems like, I think that I have seen, like, from the parks, it seems sort of a new attitude towards, like, addressing features and amenities that people like that like current residents might be really interested in, that maybe wouldn't have been in demand a generation ago. And so I think that that's like, I just really want to, like, I think that's really great, that we're taking that direction, that we're being responsive when, you know, whether it's this or the skate park or the pickleball courts, that there you've got these organized groups of people saying, hey, this is something that we want, and that they're being heard in a way that I don't necessarily feel like they were 8 years ago. I think is like a really positive thing. That it even gets to us in the first place, I think is a sign that there's some stuff going on well in the city. So I just want.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Dan.
Yeah, I just want to compliment the Park and Rec Commission, because a lot of the barriers to putting this park in a park like Nonotuck came from the Park and Rec Commission. We had the same barriers that happened for the skate park and other parks, and I think the new attitude, maybe it's new membership of the Park and Rec Commission, has really helped us move projects like these along. And I want to compliment them for doing that, for realizing this is what the people want, and we work for the people. So thank you. Thank you to the Park and Rec Commission.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. All right. So
I just had one addendum. I may not have said it right because I have dyslexia. I say things backwards. Out of the 200 people that were at that meeting in 2019, all but 2 people wanted it in Nonotuck Park. And I was one of the 2 people that didn't, because of the having to pay to get in. But all those 200 people, we had maps, and everybody wanted to put their stickers where they wanted it. Everybody wanted it in Nonotuck Park. Everybody.
Thank you. So our procedure, we fund quarterly. So we hear from application, like this quarter, we're hearing from applications in October and in November, and then December, we vote on the applications that we heard this quarter. So this will be back on the agenda in December. You're welcome to come, you know, we'd like you to come again. Then there'll probably be fewer questions because we asked a lot of questions tonight. We try to keep those discussions, you know, just the new things that have come up. But we really appreciate the presentation. Really appreciate everybody in this room to come for support. Those who spoke and those who didn't. Like, just you being here really does show something. Like, we, you know, sometimes we're talking to rooms that don't have anybody in it, and when we have a room that is packed, it really does show support. So thank you for coming out today.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I was just curious, if you had 600,000 in the CPA fund and there's only been this application, does it get rolled over to the next year?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is that the year ends in the end of June. It's a fiscal year. So last year, you know, we were right. We basically spent every dollar we had practically. There's a little cushion, but very little. So it's the fact that there's no applications right now, I think, doesn't really mean that there won't be in the later half of the fiscal year. There was a time when we had a big surplus of money in the Community Preservation Act back in 2019. We had $1 million in the bank, and that's not the case now. Last year we spent almost all the money we had. But I should say, we spent it on projects that we felt really good about. Like, I mean, like, I think we all on the committee, we want to spend the money. We want projects to be coming that we can say, yes, this is an asset to our community. We don't want it just sitting in it. So it's tremendous to have projects coming to this committee that are helping with open space and affordable housing, historic preservation, recreation, things that, you know, why the CPA was created, things that wouldn't get funded otherwise. So Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
All right.
Yeah.
Let everybody filter out here before we continue on.
Thank you so much. I just zapped you.
I know.
Really, it's a good point. Brett Hills. Yeah, I tell people if, anyone who's near my street.
Dan, do you still want to have your hand raised?
I need to leave the meeting. I'm not feeling well, so I just wanted to tell everybody that.
At one time, my family.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
That's great. This is a great.
I have to leave the meeting. I'm not feeling well.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
In there then.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll see you guys soon.
All right, hang in there. All right.
All right.
So, thank you all for that. It's funny, pickleball, they all bring the pickleball racks, all the dog pictures. The spray park, we should all gotten soaked, you know? All right, all right, continued business. The only thing we got on here is preservation plan. And in response to requests from last meeting, we got some examples, some other things there. So I looked
Totally.
over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. I want to start by just sort of another reframing of what we're trying to do here. The city feels pretty strongly that this committee needs a roadmap, that we need to have some kind of framework that we evaluate projects against, given that we anticipate coming into tighter funding periods. And so what I tried to do for this meeting is investigate our last 7 years of funding, which, you know, Jamie last did a plan in 2017. So we have kind of the breakdown of how projects were funded in the past. And then we funded more in appropriations in the last 7 years than we did in the 17 years prior. So this committee has really heated up in a big way, and we haven't had a chance to like check back in. What did this committee prioritize? Where are our focus areas? And do we agree with the course that we're on? Are there shifts we want to make? But to really sort of zero in on this, because we are in a time period where we anticipate hard choices to be made in the future, even if they're not like staring us down the throat at this particular moment. We anticipate that they're coming. The cat is out of the bag, so to speak, about CPA funding. Community partners know it. I mean, we're seeing that with the dog park and the skate park, pickleball courts. The city knows it in the way that the city has always known it. The city has, you know, new priorities in many of these categories, in housing, in open space, in recreation. There's a variety of priorities and competing priorities that in the planning department, we want this committee to have more of a framework for how they want to move forward with funding things. And that is the role that the preservation plan is supposed to serve. It is supposed to be that kind of outline over which this committee evaluates projects against. And
Sorry, can I ask you a quick question? You led with the city feels strongly that we want, so I forget exactly what you said. Who were you talking about?
I'd say the planning department. I'll speak from where I'm sitting right now. The planning department wants a roadmap.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is what these preservation plans are supposed to serve as. And different other communities do that differently. I dropped Greenfields in there in the folder for you all to take a look at. They actually select goals on the 5th page of their plan, or the second real page of their plan. They outline their approach, where they sort of have these kind of general the general framework for how they, I can make this bigger for y'all, that they advance projects that have a lot of community benefits. They prioritize urgent projects. They maximize fund leveraging. There's a lot in that in our last preservation plan about fund leveraging, but I haven't heard it discussed as much recently in the committee, so I didn't investigate that as deeply. And that they ensure the maintenance of CPA funded investments. And then they actually identify priorities while still expressing that in no way excludes consideration from other projects that are eligible for CPA funding. But they actually list out the priorities that they are looking for projects to fit within. ideally, the priorities, so that if they're making hard choices between many worthy projects that have really reasonable asks for really great improvements for the city, that they have a framework to go off of. So, okay, so that's sort of my big picture. But I did take the time. This was really Kyle's suggestion on how to go about doing this, to say, okay, where have we been, right? Because we haven't had a minute to check in and say, what has this committee funded in the last 7 years? And so on top we have, yeah, does everyone have one? Great. Sweet. So up top we have our pie chart. Oh, I have it on my computer. So up top we have our pie chart from years 1 through 16 of funding, 2001 to 2017. And yeah, it's sort of interesting. I don't know, you can take away from those numbers what you will. Recreation was clearly a high priority of that committee then. It remains a high priority of this committee now. 2.04 million committed to recreation projects. In the first 16 years, 2.06 million committed to recreation projects in the last 7 years. Historic preservation is obviously a number that has really grown. And I pull that out on the second page, that Old Town Hall has received 32.1% of total CPA funding allocated in the last 7 years, totaling 2.42 million. So that's 93.6% of all historic funding that this committee has done has gone to the Old Town Hall, and 32% of total CPA funding. Parks and Rec projects, so recreation, as I said, is 28%, but because there's been different groups, sometimes they're planning projects, sometimes they're parks projects. The Parks and Rec Commission has received 20% of CPA funding in the last 7 years. The planning departments received 15.4%. I just offered some of these numbers. I'm not offering any commentary about how those should be in relation to each other, but just to pull out some of those numbers. And some observations I had just from this. I think it's pretty clear that open space has been deprioritized. And that's just like from the pie charts. That looks pretty clearly true to me. That Old Town Hall has been a super substantial priority of the committee. And that housing is substantially more of a priority of this committee than it was in the first 16 years of its founding.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
These are the projects that have been funded. As I'm new here, have there been other projects that have come to the committee that they have chosen not to fund? And do we know what categories they were in?
One.
Okay.
One project.
And do you remember what category
It was funding of the Northampton. It actually passed through our committee, but then didn't pass in city council. It was the funding of the county courthouse, because the Hampshire County organization was trying to get money from everybody in Hampshire County.
Okay.
But other than that,
okay.
I mean, we've had things that we've reduced, but we pretty much had the luxury of being able to fund pretty much everything that's going.
Well, temple
is that Greg? You reckon is that
sent things back?
Yeah, that's true.
For further refinement, because there are some projects that come forward either without full knowledge of the process or what the CPA committee can fund and can't fund, as far as the scope of the Community Preservation Act and so forth. So often it's like a iterative process with applicants, but for the most part, and we've been kind of fortunate enough to have enough funding really up until recently to not have to be too choosy about.
The reason I ask is because when it says open space has been deprioritized, I don't know that if we didn't turn away projects, I don't know if we can say the commission deprioritized it, but there aren't projects fitting that category that have come to us.
Totally.
And maybe that is like, we want to now prioritize it to get information out to the community, or like working with the planning department or Parks and Rec Commission to say, we'd really like to increase the funds around that in our city and encourage people about our process, and that you can submit applications for those types of projects. And I don't know if that is something that is expected of commissions is to, advertise what we do. I have to say, I lived in the city for several years and I felt like I was pretty active with like attending city council meetings or at least reading notes and stuff. And I didn't know what the CPA was until I joined Parks and Rec. And so I feel like maybe it's education could be something we write into our plan to help draw in applications where we feel like that fits within our goals as a community.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the role that this preservation plan can serve is an outlining of the goals of what this committee wants to fund. I mean, I've heard from some open space stakeholders in our community that they don't think that this committee seems quite focused on recreation projects. And so like there's an impression.
But they haven't come here.
Totally.
Like, I mean, that just feels like
yeah.
come and talk to it. Like I think what you're saying as far as like, look, we're not turning anything down. Like, I think we're too small to make like trend claims like this. I think like we're really, what this is just what has come up. Like the fact that historic preservation has so much, Old Town Hall, we have a building that the city owns that is crumbling. We got to do something about it. Like, that wasn't that it was a priority that we wanted to spend more money in historic preservation. It was, this is happening in our town. And because this budget isn't, billions, one project is going to have a big effect.
Yeah. I think I broadly agree that, it's tough to take these numbers when we're not turning anything down. It's tough to take these numbers and infer a whole lot about what we would like to spend the money on. But the other thing that I want to say is that I think that there's also an element of this, just having been doing the city council thing for 8 years, that I think the projects that come before us to some extent are a function of what kinds of things the city wants to work on. Like, I think the reason that we are funding more affordable housing projects than we used to is because we've had city administrations that are more amenable to affordable housing projects and frankly less sympathetic to elements of the community that don't want affordable housing. Like, I think that that's a big part of that is simply like, if you were a city council or a city administration who broadly really valued the perspectives of the people who said we don't want any housing for poor people in the community, then you were not going to send a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars or even $1 million appropriation requests to the CPA. So I do think there's an extent to which I think that if this does show priorities, I think it's showing the priorities of the administrations and to some extent the perception of the priorities of the city council. Because, you're not going to, I don't think anyone's going to put in the work to send something here if they think the council's probably going to shoot it down. I don't know if I have a point there.
No, that's actually a really important observation.
Literally,
I want to say something on that, but I see John's hand up because I think that's really important.
Just like literally what I do for a living is look at graphs and try to infer what they mean. So if you start talking about that, I'm going to weigh in.
John.
Yeah, I just want to push back strongly on the idea of making inferences based on what we've approved in the past, because it's true. We don't generate the project, the applicants do. And for example, we have turned down a historic project. It was because it was deemed that it wasn't really in the public good. It was in the interest of the independent business.
The theater.
Yeah, and that's why we turned that down. So I would argue as a CPA member, I consider it my duty not to have a bias or a preference. We judge each application on its own merits and we approve everything we can as long as it meets those criteria, like meeting the public good, et cetera. So, and especially because of the bias or the tilt in the scale due to Old Town Hall, I especially would argue that looking at that amount of the pie chart and saying, well, clearly historic preservation is the highest priority. That's just not the way this should be analyzed.
Okay, so I hear that. I totally hear that. And I also thought that it would be useful for this committee to just check in on where the
Mhm.
where the funding appropriations have gone in the last 7 years, right? And while I totally hear that proponents propose projects and that this committee reviews those projects, part of the point of a preservation plan is to set out the goals of this committee in terms of what kinds of projects you would like to see forward.
Yeah, and I think this data is super valuable. I think we just got a little touchy about this one idea, but I think that there is something really valuable here because when you think about it, like open space, 11%, historic, you take out Old Town Hall, it's virtually nothing. And so I do think that, that is a thing that's worth thinking about. If we're thinking about what does the future look like, one thing to think about is why are what is it that those projects aren't coming? Are there good projects out there that we could be funding and they're not coming to us? And if so, why aren't they coming to us? Is there some breakdown in like the, in the chain of communication, or is it like, I just think that that's like a super interesting thing. So I'm glad we should absolutely be talking about it. And I do think this is very useful.
I totally agree. And I didn't want any of this to feel like gathering this data isn't valuable. Do you have handy the open projects list?
Yeah.
Just when Tom was talking about if it's an indication of preference, it's really not of the committee as much as the administration or the priorities of the administration. I thought that was really astute, and I think I remember looking at this list saying, "Oh, we need to get the outstanding balances back. Let's contact all the people that are in charge of these," and then sort of recognizing like, oh, a lot of these are city projects, right? So like that speaks a lot to what you're saying. You look at this list, the lead sponsor of what, over half of them or something, but a lot of them are city entities, parks, or, we look and planning. Yeah. So I do think that's a really good point, that it's kind of like, and it's also an interesting point in light of a new mayoral election that's coming up in a few weeks, and we'll have a new mayor and there will be priorities there. And like, so thinking about proactively what we have, it is an interesting time to consider that. Craig, did you ever hear that?
Yeah. A generous interpretation of what we fund is that it's a barometer of the need that's in the community that is related to preservation.
Yeah.
That there is a demand, and the demand comes forward, and we fund it if it's an eligible project with sufficient funds. That's a very generous sort of interpretation, but I do believe there is some truth to the idea that there is demand in certain areas. And one of the things that I monitor and that I appreciate about our regular review of the account balances is what we haven't really seen is this explosion of, in one column, a bunch of set aside money for one purpose that is $1 million. If it was like a bar chart or something, that, there's all this money for affordable housing or all this money for historic preservation that's gone unused, accumulated set asides from year after year after year. We haven't seen that for the most part, in the time that I've been on the committee, which has been, over a decade. And I think that's good. I think that means that there are projects that are coming forward in all of these different areas. And I think that the preservation plan is partly a push, but it's really also partly a pull and a pull of our community needs. And I think the idea is to solicit and try to get ideas from our various different, constituencies on the different planning, boards that we are a part of, or even just at large. And that's also just dovetails with the city's overall, what do they call it, strategic plan and priorities for the city. So there really is, and then I'm just going to have to be the budget CPA, the community, sort of certified public accountant CPA person to say that the city has fiscal limitations, and part of the reason that we get projects from the city is that there are some things that are outside the budget or feasibility within the city budget to actually execute on, that nonetheless are clear priorities for the city and for the community that are eligible projects to fund through the CPA. And I think it's been a little bit of a release, sort of fiscal release for the city to be able to, like, oh, thank goodness this is a CPA fundable project. Let's put in an application for whatever it might be. Because I think that whatever resident professionals in public office and so forth see the need and they put it forward. And so we are an extension a little bit of the city in that respect too. And I think that's okay.
Thank you. John.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that I do agree that we should better clarify our priorities and goals. I'm all for that. I just would point out again, too, to remind everybody that things that aren't represented in that list of things we've approved include things that the applicant themselves withdrew, sometimes for very good cause, sometimes such a good cause as I'll remind people that they found other sources of money. So the project went through, it just didn't need our money. So again, only to just emphasize that, like somebody brought up, if we were going to make assumptions based on past applications, we should include applications that we didn't end up funding and just make a list more about what kind of projects are people proposing. And if we think there's something underserved, we could do outreach. But again, just, I think we should define our goals and priorities. I'll emphasize that.
Yeah, because this open space, 11%, 7.79 mil. The dog park would have added 200,000, if we asked for the money, would have added $200,000 to that, but we didn't need the funding.
So that might be going
It'd be a
recreation.
recreation project.
What?
That would go in recreation.
But the point is they have the money, so it doesn't, if we're funding a smaller amount because
Right.
they have more money, that doesn't necessarily mean we care about it less.
Right, exactly.
I do think what Greg's saying as far as you phrased it really eloquently. It's not just a push, but a pull and a pull. Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, past plans, we've
that's-
tried to kind
yeah.
of really get input and also that comes from the city because the planning department and other departments are aware of the need and
Because I think I remember that too. And I do think, again, I think this is so valuable. We haven't done this in years, right? And it's clearly needed. And I do think when I'm hearing you say there's a perception that we're not open to open, I'm like, what? Where did that come from? I think this process, part of this should be, hey, everyone out there who is involved in anything here, we want to hear from you in putting together this plan. And that's what that's what it would be. It was to every group that was involved in anything had someone testify at that meeting to say, this is what we're looking forward to. This is what we're trying to plan. This is what we might have coming up in a few years. And so we as a committee were able to take all that in and say, oh, look, it's not just what we think, but this is what we're hearing is the preservation needs of all of these city stakeholders.
And we're still going to go through that process, right? We're still getting the stakeholder wish lists and they will all still be invited to the annual meeting. This is the process. The previous plan and other communities' plans have them as separate sections, right? They try not to mix individual projects into this framing of goals and needs and resources of the community. I think there's a concern that I've heard from other CPA coordinators that CPA can, and I'm not accusing this committee at all of doing this, I'm just saying that I'm speaking broadly here. There's a broad concern that CPA can become a pet project fund if it doesn't have some guiding principles around its goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree with what's been said about those goals aligning with the goals of the city. A lot of CPA committees really go back to the open space and recreation goals, housing production plan goals. They go off of other plans that the city has, but they try to set some frameworks of this is what we're trying to evaluate projects against, rather than back apply and say, okay, we have these projects. here's, I guess, what our goals are, right? Because I mean, we just did that with these, I just did that with I did that brief quantitative analysis with that. And this committee was like, whoa, 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 those aren't our goals. Those are just the projects we funded. But then what were the goals, right? Like what was the guiding framework that informed those funding decisions? And I understand that for a lot of this committee's time, there hasn't been a ton of competition for those funding dollars, but I just couldn't really see that changing.
Yeah, I'll say this quickly because I think you kind of just made my point, but I would say that so far in my time at CPA and previously doing CPA stuff with the council, a lot of it has been we've funded the people who have asked because there hasn't yet in this time been that sort of competition. And so it's like, in a way, like if a project comes up and this is the eligible project that applied and we have the funds, it's like, all right, I guess that's cool. But that's not always going to be the case. Like eventually we're going to find a place where there's two worthy projects and we have to decide which one we actually want to fund. So I agree. This makes a lot of sense.
And maybe this committee wants to hold, oh, sorry.
You know, my professional role is a controller, which is a great title. But it basically talks about sort of the internal controls that are in place. And I think one of the delightful parts about being on this committee, aside from the fact that it's mostly a yes committee, not a no committee, is that there are built-in controls for some of the concerns that we might have. One is that the scope is very specific based on the Community Preservation Act. We have guardrails and guidelines that are baked into the funding mechanism of this committee that really makes our focus very clear as a committee about what we can fund and what our priorities are and so forth. I think that's a great starting point. That gets us like 75% of the way there, just knowing every meeting when we sit down, this is the scope of projects we're going to be asked to fund, or at least that we're able to fund based on the act. And then you see that from like those buckets of actual dollars in the set-asides. That's like just another very visual reminder of barometer of the different projects and so forth. So it's just another like regular check-in. And then just to be very clear, in a democracy and in our system, like we are a committee, right? So like it is our responsibility and duty to get together and talk with one another and not always agree. And part of the task going forward could be the kind of trade-offs that we need to decide. But I think there's actually, we're very well equipped right now without an external criteria framework to kind of hold every single project up to, like, I think it'd be very hard to build a specific one-size-fits-all criteria framework for every project request that comes in, because we just don't know what those projects are. And I think one of the great controls and assets of this is the committee conversation. I think it is our responsibility, though, to be conscious of those trade-offs as we get these different project requests.
Thank you. And I guess to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, as far as because we have those guardrails, I think that my concern would be putting things in place that are used in a way to negate the individuality of the projects, like in sort of saying if we're putting, that if you're hearing, well, we don't prioritize open space, right? If we say, well, we're prioritizing open space over these other things, and there's an open space proposal that comes to us, but for whatever reason, that actual proposal that's coming at the same time as that affordable housing proposal, like that, as a committee or as individual committee members that don't necessarily agree, determine that like that project we think has more value for the city. Like, I think the value in sort of looking at whether it's to get a framework that would be all encompassing feels, while there could be guiding principles, I feel like that framework all encompassing could minimize the beauty of having a small community where we can actually get into these, like we could really hear the specifics about these projects. Yeah.
I guess something that I would like to see from this is, I'd like to get, like, I know we're planning to reach out to a lot of stakeholders, and I want to some extent get a lot of their feedback, because, just as a elected official, and, I'm coming into this and I've got my own perspectives on things, and I'm going to vote for what I think is right. Just frankly, like, is like, we can come up with whatever plan we want, but if I look at two projects, I'm going to vote for the one that I think is the best for the city, regardless of what any plan, say. So that's just maybe I shouldn't, but that's just,
I don't think it shouldn't.
That is just the reality of, I think what everyone's going to do is everyone's going to come in and they're going to look at this and they're going to do what they think is right. That's on any board or committee, but we are looking at it from a certain perspective. And so when I see a plan, I could see a situation where maybe there's two projects and maybe they're kind of in competition for finite funds, and maybe I like this project more than this one. But maybe through this process, what I hear is a whole lot of people with a different perspective than me saying, it's really, really, really important to us that this happens. Maybe that is something that can inform my decision to say, okay, there's other perspectives I need to keep in mind. We've heard from this that there's a really strong group of stakeholders who really, really, really care about this stuff. So maybe even if it's not something that's personally super interesting to me, maybe I will be more open to taking that over something if through this planning process I hear that there's people who I want whose opinions I respect who have a different perspective on it.
John.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking about was how one of the issues is the order things come in at, right? Because we don't have any control, and we sort of face do we go with first come, first served, or do we try to hold out for a higher priority? So for example, imagine really early on, an expensive but low priority project comes in, something that we're all like, yeah, well, it's okay, but it's not really, really important. Are we trying to decide then, well, we're going to hold off. We don't want to spend this money because then that money might not be available for something truly important. I get that kind of problem. I would like that to be considered. And I'd like to throw in that I think there's a little bit sometimes of a self-selecting process that's good for us. In other words, if we were to go out and solicit, we might get flooded by lots of little projects and then the money's all gone. One of the things that I've been under the impression happens in a natural way here is that because it's a little bit onerous and you have to do a little bit of work to figure it out, usually by the time somebody's come to the CPA, for lack of a better phrase, we've sort of separated the wheat from the chaff. People that, had a half-baked idea or wasn't really going to have a public good, but they were going to kind of whinge it to make it seem that way. Those things get helped out a little bit by the process so that hopefully it's the more serious and greater benefit projects that make it to the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we can turn our attention. I did draw out the open space and recreation goals a little bit more. I guess a takeaway I'm getting from this is that well, I don't know. I guess I'm curious. I'm like, I guess I'm taking away from this that.
By the way, I don't know if you want to project that up there. But
yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, I'm taking away that we don't want to do something like what Greenfield's done, which is where they identify priorities that reflect the city's goals and needs.
I mean, I think like broad things could be outlined. Like one could be, we're looking, I don't know how to phrase it. And I definitely don't want to put that we're like favoring or preferencing projects, but just like, something that aligns with the city's master plan. like if we have come to the conclusion as a city that these types of projects are what we want to see in our city, the CPA should keep those, that outline in mind when viewing applications. But I feel like everyone seems to be on the same page about like favoring certain projects over the other when we don't know the cycle of them coming in, or whether we'll get as many projects in certain categories. I personally would like to stay away from very like preferential language, but I do think we can outline priorities, like making sure projects, are in compliance with ADA regulations, et cetera.
And I didn't actually get the sense that like when you're like not doing something like Greenfield's doing, to me, like this is not saying one thing's more important than another. It's saying these are, like, yes, we want housing opportunities and we want access to public recreation. It's not prioritized. That's not how I read
Under
that anyway.
maximize fund leveraging, it says favor projects then,
Yeah.
so there, and then favor
Well, they
projects.
do, this is their ranking.
Hold on, sorry, Tom.
Well, yeah, so these on here are like broader priorities, but I really like up at the top there, where it talks about, things like prioritize urgent projects, maximize fund leveraging. That kind of feedback brought rather than, saying we want to prioritize open space over recreation or vice versa. That I'm less interested in, but in saying, hey, when we're looking at competing projects, if there's a project that leverages a bunch of other funds, we should consider that as a reason why we might favor one project over another. Okay. If there's a project that is urgent, that might be a reason why we might favor a project over another. So I like those as sort of like philosophical, like what would, all other things being equal, what are things that might make us, favor a project? We can discuss that. And then when it comes up, we can say, hey, we talked about this and we said that leveraged projects are desirable to us. So now that we have to choose between these two, maybe we should choose the one that leverages the money. Like, I think that that's great.
And I think to build on that is helpful to be outlined in a plan that people who are sending projects might be more likely to come to us if they see like, oh, if we get matching funds or if we have a grant, also they're more likely to choose our project and might, come to the table.
Great. So I would endorse these four, right? I mean, I think this is fine for me, at least, to include in an Easthampton version of our preservation plan. I would say that, talking about the city master plan, alignment with the city master plan, I think is a priority. I would list that as sort of discerning criteria for deciding between projects. If
the other plans.
What's that?
Or the other plans.
Whatever.
Yeah, we have a housing production plan. We have an open space and
we can name them, right? Like, I think the alignment with other previously identified city priorities is important. So I would add that as a, sort of as a bullet potentially to these. And then I would also just potentially as a bullet, the breadth of Easthampton population that can benefit from the project. So a much narrowly defined project with a smaller subset of the population who potentially will benefit might be less favored than something that it has a much more broader appeal and will be used by more people.
I want to say so. I want to say that in general, but into that last thing you just said, the only issue I would have with that, I know that there was like, I'm thinking about like pickleball when they presented at the same time as affordable housing. It's like, well, like tons of people can benefit from pickleball because everything's open to everybody, but that's only like 20 housing units or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not just breadth, it's also depth. Right?
It's why it's a single bullet among many, right? It's not a litmus test for us as a committee, and I would never want to sort of hamstring us necessarily. Yeah. But I think it is a factor sometimes with reasonably equivalent projects to say, okay, this one really is for a very narrow portion of our community, and this one will.
I think they're reasonably equivalent. I think putting language in there like that is helpful in sort of saying. But the other thing, excuse me, that I wanted to say here is, I mean, every one of these we've done, like we've talked about, like everything here has come up, right? Like, oh, well, this project is leveraging funds that is favorable. Like, oh, we really, they lose funding on this if we don't do this in the next couple of months. Yeah, let's try to do this now. There's nothing up here that we haven't actually cited in particular projects as things that we've cared about. Like we have precedents for everything there.
What's your point?
My point is this doesn't change really anything we're doing. Like, it's not or maybe to the other point, I mean, it's fine to put it out there, but it's not like it actually is going to affect our decision-making process any more than we already are.
Could it be helpful for a new member coming in and being like, what are the criteria to which I should be making the decision? Or even a member who's just very conflicted between I love both these projects. How should I even be evaluating this?
Does that last bullet point ensure maintenance of CPA funded investments? I'm just curious. I was just opening it for discussion.
I think it's a great one.
It's important, especially if it's something that's going to be expensive to maintain.
The hidden costs of a project that we fund, and then suddenly it requires a lot annually to keep it going, or if the lifespan's only going to be 5 years because there's no funds or no community support to maintain something for the long term, then it definitely diminishes the value of the investment.
Yeah, we ask that, right? Who's going to maintain this when we have a project that comes up? I think we did it for when they were the Lathrop project, when they're pulling weeds, and we asked them who's going to maintain it after your first initial, yeah, so.
John has this one.
I'm sorry, John.
That's okay. I think everybody's essentially, people have made the statements that I think we're looking for. I guess the only thing I'll add is it sounds to me like it's our benefit to keep it kind of broad and philosophical, because otherwise we're making the statements about the things that are our priorities and goals now.
I think in most senses, I think broad and philosophical makes sense. But I would also be interested, I remember the last time we did this was when I was first running for election. So I stopped in a lot of those meetings because I was just trying to learn a lot. And there was a lot of people that would show up at those meetings and say, I would really like to see the city do more about this kind of thing, or I'd like to see the city do this kind of thing. And those public hearings are obviously not perfectly representative of the community. They skew to certain groups of people who attend public meetings. But I also think that if we're developing a plan, I think that sort of thing is general. Am I correct that that's generally part of?
Well, I don't think this preservation plan traditionally this involves one public hearing where we present it, and then a series of me reaching out to various stakeholder groups, but not a series of meetings.
Okay, but at least one and an opportunity for the public to weigh in various ways. I would love to see that public feedback enshrined in some concise form in the document, not as a binding requirement of what we have to do regardless of what projects come in, but as a way of, again, if eventually there's going to come a time where we have to make a painful decision, can we refer to this and say, well, when we made this plan, here's the feedback that we got from the public, and maybe that is informative.
Totally. There will be a full list of all of the proposed projects, all of the possible wish list projects that'll be in the plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Including ones that people bring forward in the meeting that we're presenting the plan at. People come and speak. We can record those and list them and have them part of the plan as well. I think that's a great idea.
One thing I just want to throw out there is that I am a data scientist type person, and I'm currently taking a class at UMass as text as data. So if we wanted to have like a survey component of some form, and then try and find ways to condense that into, word clouds or things like that, that can be more easily picked up to say, 18% of the population said that they would really like more open space due to something or other. That's something that I'd be happy to do pro bono to help out.
Thanks. Okay. Do we want to save, so I have some, I followed the request here, I believe, and pulled out some of this kind of example framework to accompany the goals that we laid out for open space. And these are directly taken from the open space and recreation plan, right? It's a culling of the open space and recreation plan goals for ones that are more specifically relevant for the CPA committee. I don't know if we want to talk about those now. We could save this for a future meeting when we have the other sections as well.
And you do a quick overview.
Is this the format that you would expect it to stay, or are you thinking that the examples would then go into like the larger statement? Like, is it, we talked about like it's super broad. We want to make it a little bit more specific, but not project specific.
Right. This was my
format work. Like, I
mean, this was
what type of feedback you're asking for. I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this was my attempt to try to give like categories of projects without actually naming projects.
Yeah. And that this is what it would look like in the plan with like kind of the broader statement with examples underneath.
Examples of what, stewarding lands of natural resource, scenic, and ecosystem value, what stewarding those lands looks like. Well, it can look like these three kinds of things, and more, of course. Like,
right.
And this is very much a draft, so open to other examples and ideas as they come in. If committee members need some more time to look at them too, or you can write me if you have ideas.
We met at our last meeting and we started the like project ideas list, and then next meeting we were gonna try and do this like broad overview too.
Okay, great.
So we can share.
Can we see the last preservation plan that the committee had, just to refresh?
It looks like it's very specific to like what just CPA, like each category has kind of the outline of what those categories are, and then what projects.
Can you go to the table? Let's just look at the table of contents for a second. I'm kind of curious to see that first. So, introduction, a little bit about the plan, a little bit about the act. What does it say under that? About the committee.
Yeah, and then if you go
the 4 sections.
Right, and the 4 sections do this kind of resources, needs, and possibilities. So our hope was to do more of goals, examples, like context goals, examples. We can touch on this like resources. I found reading this plan, it felt kind of vague. And the needs were the needs were sort of the goals, but not totally. They were kind of amorphous.
Mm-hmm. I just want to be clear that this plan doesn't need to be very long.
Right.
This is a very well put together and pretty lengthy preservation plan. This isn't a heavy this doesn't have to be a heavy lift for the committee, because we're doing it on if we want it to be annual, let's just be clear, like it needs to be bite-sized.
Yes.
For us to do this on an annual basis and refresh it.
Totally.
So So I think this is a lovely document. It's also a pretty extensive document.
Right.
And maybe that's why it's just like sat there for however many years. It's like redoing a document of this length is a big task. Whether we call it goals or needs, I think the community needs portion of it, however we want to frame it, is important. Like having an idea of and I think some of those are like very apparent and in the news and a priority, whatever, when it comes to recently, it's been affordable housing. And I've heard a lot about protecting the Barnes Aquifer and other kinds of things, right? Like, so these are things that are like being talked about, and we'll put them in there in some format, whether it's called goals or needs or whatever. But I would like to think that we are in some ways not generating goals as a committee, but we are responding to needs as a committee. Just from that, like we're not an executive body, we are an approving body or a recommending body to the city council. But that's just my view on it.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful. I think it's really great to hear all of your guys' feedback on this, because I don't think every community preservation committee across the state handles this the same way. So I think it's helpful to hear all of your feedback on how you want to move forward with this.
We're the best, right?
Totally.
You guys can come on there. All right. Anything else you need on that one?
No, I think I'll let you know if there's anything urgent that comes up for the November meeting. Otherwise, 2 weeks out, we'll cancel the meeting because we don't have any projects to review.
Sounds good. And the November meeting is?
November 20th.
Which is the third Thursday.
Yeah.
So week before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Seeing nothing else, does anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's do a roll call on this, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a list? I can go through in the right order. Scott Kavanaugh, that's me, yes. Dan Rist is no longer here. John Bruner.
Aye.
Drew Henninger.
Aye.
Mary Church.
Yes.
Tom Peake.
Aye.
Greg Rowland.
Aye.
Jay Ryan is not here. Kenny Vecchia.
Aye.
Excellent.
Great.
We are adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.